Every time I reacted emotionally, I surrendered power. And I only realized this when I studied Tayu Hanako's lessons. Hanako couldn't control people raising their voices. She controlled the atmosphere by remaining motionless while the others lost their way. Today, I'm going to show you why stopping reacting is the beginning of true control. Stay with me until the end. A single decision can change how the world responds to you. The day I realized my reactions were weakening me, I believed that reacting quickly was a sign of intelligence and presence. For years, I prided myself on my ability to respond immediately. In conversations, I could instantly counter-argue. In conflicts, I had a defense ready before the other person finished speaking. In criticism, my justification was already coming out of my mouth before I even processed what had been said. I saw this speed as a virtue, as proof that I was attentive, engaged, present. When someone provoked me, I had an answer, on the tip of my tongue. When someone challenged me, I retaliated without hesitation. I thought this speed of reaction made me strong, made me seem confident, demonstrated that I was not a person who could be easily intimidated or silenced. Modern culture reinforced this belief. Quick responses on social media were celebrated, instant comebacks were admired, and the person who was left speechless was seen as weak or slow. But the more instantly I reacted to everything, the more I noticed a disturbing pattern. The people around me knew exactly how to make me dance. Like an instrument that always plays the same note when a certain key is pressed, I was completely predictable. Someone would make a certain type of comment, and I would explode in defense, always, without fail. Someone would question my competence, and I would go into over-justification mode, every time, like clockwork. Someone would ignore me, and I would react by seeking attention in increasingly desperate ways. I wasn't a person consciously responding to situations. I was a machine of automatic reactions, and anyone who paid even the slightest attention to my patterns could manipulate me with frightening ease. My speed of reaction wasn't strength. It was exposed vulnerability, a predictable set of buttons that anyone could push to get the desired response. But the more I reacted, the more predictable and manipulable I became. The devastating truth was that my reactivity was turning me into a puppet, and the strings were visible to anyone paying attention. People who wanted to destabilize me knew exactly what to say. People who wanted to control me knew exactly which buttons to push. I thought I was being strong by responding quickly, by never letting anything slide, by always defending my position. But in reality, I was surrendering all my power. I was allowing others to determine my emotional state through their words and actions. I was giving them remote control of my inner peace, my energy, my attention. Every automatic reaction was an admission that I wasn't in control of myself. I was being controlled by external stimuli that I couldn't resist. The moment of realization came during a particularly intense discussion where, in the midst of my passionate defense, I saw a subtle smile on the other person's face. It wasn't a smile of agreement or admiration. It was the smile of someone who had just confirmed exactly what they expected, someone who had deliberately provoked me to elicit a specific reaction and had succeeded perfectly. In that instant, I saw with humiliating clarity. I was so predictable that my reaction had been calculated in advance. I wasn't being strong or authentic. I was being manipulated like a novice player in a game I didn't even know I was playing. And that realization completely shattered my illusion that reactivity was power. If I wanted true control, true strength, true respect, I would need to learn the exact opposite, not to react. And that's when I discovered Tayu Hanako's teachings on the devastating power of those who remain still while everyone else is agitated. Tayu Hanako and the power of those who do not move. Hanako taught that whoever controls the rhythm controls the game. Tayu Hanako was a high-ranking courtesan in 18th century Japan, equivalent to an uncrowned queen who navigated circles of male power with mastery, leaving powerful men completely under her command, not through obvious seduction or visible manipulation, but through something far more subtle and devastating: absolute control of the timing and rhythm of interactions. While others rushed to respond, to please, to react to demands and provocations, Hanako simply didn't move until she was ready. If someone asked a question, she paused. 3, 5, sometimes 10 seconds of complete silence before responding, if she decided to respond at all. If someone provoked her expecting an emotional reaction, she maintained a perfectly neutral expression, calm eyes, as if the provocation hadn't even registered. This refusal to conform to the rhythm that others tried to impose on her, this absolute insistence on moving only at her own pace, created something extraordinary. She completely controlled the energy field of any interaction because everyone else was reacting to her while she wasn't reacting to anyone. The principle was simple yet profound. In any human interaction, the person who reacts is following. The person who doesn't react is leading. It doesn't matter the content of the words. It doesn't matter who has more social or economic power. Dynamically, whoever is reacting automatically is being controlled by whoever remains calm enough not to react. Hanako understood this viscerally. When a daimyo, feudal lord, tried to intimidate her with loud voices or demands, she didn't shrink back or retaliate. She simply maintained her center, her rhythm, her unperturbed presence. And invariably, the man who was trying to control the situation through volume or aggression began to feel uncomfortable with his own behavior, began to calm down, began to unconsciously adjust to her rhythm. Without saying a word, without making a visible movement, she had completely reversed the power dynamic simply by refusing to dance to the rhythm he was trying to impose. While the others scrambled, she remained silent, and that created authority. There were historical records of negotiations where Hanako sat in perfect silence for entire minutes while powerful men argued, threatened, offered, and tried every strategy of persuasion or intimidation. And she simply did not respond. Not with anger, not with fear, not defensively, just a calm, still presence. And something extraordinary happened. Her silence began to weigh on the room like a physical presence. The more the men spoke and she did not respond, the more desperate their attempts to elicit a reaction became, and the more power she accumulated through her. Stillness. Eventually, they would tire, stop talking, and in the silence that followed, she would speak. A sentence, perhaps two, spoken calmly and precisely. And because she had maintained her power through non-reaction, her few words carried a devastating weight that 1,000 reactive words never would have. She had created authority not through force or volume, but through stillness while everyone else moved frantically. I began to study this quality of non-movement, not as a manipulative tactic, but as a practice of self-mastery. Hanako wasn't feigning calm while seething inside. She had cultivated a genuine capacity to remain unmoved internally by external provocations. This was radically different from simply suppressing reactions. It was about having processed so much, integrated so much, that the things that used to throw you off balance simply no longer had that power. Like a rock in the middle of a river, water flows around it, but the rock doesn't move, not because it's struggling to hold on, but because its nature is to be still. I began to practice this in small interactions. When someone said something provocative, instead of responding instantly, I paused. I breathed. I observed my impulse to react without following it. And in that space between stimulus and response, I discovered something Hanako had known for centuries. Power lies not in how well you react, but in whether you choose to react. And that choice, that space of deliberate non-movement, completely changed the nature of how people interacted with me. Emotional reaction is surrendering control. Anger, defensiveness, over-explaining, it all seemed natural to me. For years, I had operated under the belief that expressing my emotions immediately was authenticity, that aggressively defending my position was strength, that exhaustively explaining my point of view was healthy communication. When someone criticized me, my instant anger seemed an appropriate, even justified response. When someone questioned my decisions, my elaborate defense seemed necessary to maintain my worth. When someone misinterpreted me, my detailed explanation of everything I really meant seemed to be my responsibility. Each of these emotional reactions seemed not only natural, but correct, as if I were honoring my feelings, setting boundaries, making myself heard. Modern culture told me that suppressing emotions was toxic, that I should express my feelings, that keeping things inside was detrimental to mental health. So I expressed everything, immediately, intensely, thinking that this was a sign of emotional strength and authenticity, until I understood that every emotional reaction was an unconscious plea for validation. This realization struck me like a lightning bolt when I finally stopped to observe what was really happening beneath the surface of my intense emotional reactions. When I exploded in anger, what I was really saying was, "You hurt me, and I need you too. Acknowledge that." When I defended myself excessively, I was saying, "I need you to see that I am good, competent, valuable." When I compulsively explained, I was saying, "I need you to understand me and approve of my reasons." Every intense emotional reaction was, at its core, a request for the other person to give me something: recognition, approval, understanding, validation. And making these requests, especially so transparently and desperately through uncontrolled emotional reactions, was surrendering my power completely. I was telling the world, my inner peace, my sense of worth, my emotional state depend on how you respond to me. It was making my inner stability hostage to external factors that I couldn't control. Every time I reacted emotionally to something someone said or did, I was essentially giving that person tremendous power over me. I was demonstrating that they had direct access to my emotional buttons, that they could make me dance, that I had no stable center that remained untouched regardless of what happened externally. And even worse, the more intensely I reacted, the more power I handed over, because intense reactions reveal deep investment. They show exactly where you are vulnerable, exactly what hurts you, exactly how to manipulate you. People who wanted to control me could simply observe what caused my strongest reactions and then use that strategically. My anger told them what threatened me. My defensiveness told them where I felt insecure. My over-explaining told them that I desperately needed their approval. I was essentially giving them a complete map of how to destabilize me, and then I was left confused as to why the same painful dynamics kept repeating themselves. Hanako had understood something I was only beginning to grasp. Emotional reaction isn't strength, it's a hemorrhage of power. When you react emotionally, you reveal investment, you reveal vulnerability, you reveal that the other person has the power to deeply affect you. And once they know that, you're in a fundamentally weak position, no matter how assertively you expressed your anger or how articulately you defended your position. Hanako maintained what she called kokoro no shizukesa, stillness of heart, not because she was cold or disconnected, but because she had cultivated such a stable inner center that external provocations simply had no power to move her. She felt emotions, certainly, but there was space between feeling and expressing, between impulse and action. And in that space, she maintained her power. I began to practice observing my emotional impulses without automatically acting on them, feeling anger rising, but not allowing it to control my words, noticing defensive impulses, but not letting them dictate my response, recognizing a need for validation, but not making it visible through desperate explanations. And the more I created that space between feeling and reacting, the more power I regained from all the people and situations to which I had been surrendering control of my inner peace. Strategic silence as a psychological weapon. I learned not to respond immediately, neither with words nor with gestures. The first time I consciously tried not to react to a provocation, every fiber of my being screamed to respond, to defend, to explain, to do something. Someone made a comment that would normally make me explode in elaborate justifications, and instead, I simply stopped. I closed my mouth. I kept my face neutral. I didn't respond immediately. The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity, although it was probably only 5 seconds. My heart raced. My hands wanted to gesture. My mouth wanted to open. Every internal impulse pushed me toward the usual reaction. But I maintained the silence, not with heroic effort, but with curiosity. What would happen if I simply didn't react? And what happened was revealing. The other person became visibly uncomfortable with my silence in ways they were never uncomfortable with my emotional reactions. My silence created a vacuum that my reaction usually filled, and in that vacuum, something changed in the dynamic between us. I began to systematically implement strategic silence, inspired by Hanako, who used pauses and non-responses as precise tools of influence. When someone asked an intrusive question, instead of automatically responding or defending myself, I would simply look at the person calmly, let the silence linger, and often they would back down or rephrase without me needing to say a word. When someone criticized me expecting a defensive reaction, I would listen completely, pause for a long time, and then either respond with something very brief and unemotional or not respond at all. When someone tried to provoke me, I maintained a neutral expression and complete silence, denying them the satisfaction of seeing that they had affected me. Each non-response was a conscious choice, each silence a deliberate act of maintaining my power instead of wasting it on a reaction that would only serve to reveal my vulnerabilities or hand control of the interaction to the other person. The silence began to make others uncomfortable and to strengthen me from within. What I discovered was fascinating. People are deeply uncomfortable with silence, especially when they expect a reaction and receive none. Silence creates uncertainty. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know if they've affected you. They don't know how to interpret your lack of response. And in that uncertainty, they begin to fill the void with their own projections, often assuming you are more powerful, more controlled, more threatening than you actually are. My silence made people wonder, is she angry? Doesn't she even care? Is she judging me? Why isn't she responding? And the more they wondered, the more power I accumulated, because I was occupying space in their minds without expending any of my own energy. Meanwhile, internally, each chosen moment of silence strengthened me. Each time I resisted the urge to react, I proved to myself that I had self-control, that I wasn't a slave to my impulses, that I could maintain my center regardless of what was happening around me. Hanako taught that silence was not passive absence, but active presence. It was you occupying your space so completely that you felt no need to fill it with words or reactions. It was such deep confidence that you didn't need to defend yourself or explain. It was such consolidated power that you didn't need to demonstrate it through elaborate responses. And there was a specific psychological element that made silence particularly potent. When you don't react emotionally, the other person can't gauge their impact on you, so they are at a disadvantage, trying to figure out how to read you, while you remain perfectly legible to yourself, but illegible to them. I began to use silence not as punishment or a manipulative game, but as a practice of self-mastery and energy conservation. Every reaction I didn't have was energy I retained instead of wasting. Every response I didn't give was information I didn't deliver. Every emotion I didn't display was vulnerability I didn't expose. And cumulatively, these non-actions created a presence of silent strength that began to fundamentally change how people perceived and treated me. When you stop reacting, it changes how people treat you. Something curious happened when I stopped reacting. Automatically. In the first few days of practicing non-reactivity, the people around me were visibly confused. Colleagues who used to provoke me to get a specific reaction tried their usual tactics and were met with calm silence or brief, neutral responses. Friends who were used to my emotional outbursts made comments that would normally make me passionately defend myself, and I simply listened without arguing back. Family members who knew exactly which buttons to push to make me react pressed those buttons and found that they no longer worked, as if I had disconnected the wiring that previously guaranteed a predictable response. Initially, many intensified their attempts, making more provocative comments, pushing harder, as if they were testing to see if I had really changed or if it was just a temporary phase. But when it became clear that my non-reactivity was consistent, something profound began to shift in the dynamics. People started measuring their words with me in ways they never had before. Conversations that used to be casual and sometimes disrespectful became more careful, more considered. People who previously said anything, knowing I would react but eventually forgive, began to think twice before speaking. Not because I had set verbal boundaries or threatened consequences, but because my lack of reaction created uncertainty about where I was internally, and humans are naturally more cautious in uncertain territory. When I reacted emotionally, I was an open map. They knew exactly how I felt, exactly where they stood with me, exactly that they could push me to a certain point, and I would always come back. But when I stopped reacting, I became uncharted territory. They no longer knew if I was angry or indifferent. They didn't know if I was holding a grudge or genuinely didn't care. This ambiguity naturally made them more respectful, more cautious, more considerate. People started measuring their words, hesitating in their actions because they couldn't read me anymore. The power of this unreadability was something Hanako had completely mastered. When you're easily readable through your emotional reactions, people feel comfortable being careless with you because they know exactly where they stand. It's like driving on a familiar road. You can go on autopilot because you know every curve. But when you become unreadable, when your reactions are no longer predictable, people have to pay real attention. They have to consider your words and actions more carefully because they're no longer sure of the consequences. I saw this happening in real time. People who used to interrupt my sentences now waited to see if I was finished. People who made jokes at my expense began to hesitate, wondering if I would find it funny or if there was an invisible line they shouldn't cross. People who used to make casual demands on my energy and time began to ask more carefully, as if they were no longer sure if I would automatically say yes. And there was an even deeper change. People who used to see me as emotionally reactive and therefore easy to manipulate or discard began to see me with something close to respect, even silent reverence. Because someone who doesn't react is demonstrating rare self-control, is showing that they are not driven by impulses or a need for external validation, is communicating that they have a strong enough inner center to remain stable regardless of external chaos. This is a quality that people instinctively respect, even when they can't articulate why. I began to receive completely different treatment in professional negotiations. When I remained calm and didn't react to pressure tactics, the other party began to move toward me instead of the opposite. In personal conflicts, when I didn't defend myself or counterattack emotionally, people often ended up apologizing or backing down without me needing to demand it. My non-reactivity created space where before there was only emotional escalation. And in that space, healthier resolutions emerged naturally. Hanako was absolutely right. When you stop reacting, you stop being treated as someone who can be easily moved, manipulated, or discarded. You begin to be treated as a force to be respected, precisely because you have demonstrated that you don't need anything from anyone enough to react emotionally to the pursuit of it. The ultimate control: respond only when you choose. Hanako wasn't cold, she was precise. This distinction was crucial and often misunderstood by those who observed Hanako from the outside. Her non-reactivity didn't stem from emotional disconnection or calculated indifference. It came from something far more refined and powerful: absolute precision about when, how, and if to respond to any stimulus. She wasn't suppressing emotions or pretending not to care. She was operating from a place of conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. When she chose to respond, her responses were perfectly calibrated for maximum effect. Few words, impeccable timing, tone exactly appropriate for the desired outcome. And when she chose not to respond, her silence was also precise, communicating exactly what she wanted to communicate without wasting energy on elaboration. There was nothing random or emotional about her interactions. Each move was chess played by a master who thought 3 moves ahead, while others were still reacting impulsively to the previous move. Today, I don't react. I choose when to respond. This has become my operational philosophy after months of practicing the principles I learned from Hanako. The difference between reacting and responding is abysmal, even though the words seem similar. Reacting is automatic, impulsive, driven by the emotion of the moment, with no space between stimulus and action. Responding is deliberate, conscious, chosen after consideration, with space between what happens and how you choose to deal with it. I used to react to everything, every criticism, every provocation, every demand, every comment. Now, I create deliberate space where before there was only reflex. When someone says something that would previously make me explode, I pause, I breathe, I ask myself, does this situation deserve my energy? Does responding serve any useful purpose, or does it only satisfy my wounded ego? What outcome do I really want here? And often, the answer is that not responding is the most powerful response. Other times, I decide that responding is appropriate, but I do so in my timing, in my tone, with my words carefully chosen instead of impulsively vomited out. This ultimate control, the ability to consciously choose when and how to respond instead of being a slave to automatic reactions, has completely changed my power in all areas of life. In professional negotiations, I no longer feel pressured to fill silences or respond immediately to proposals. I can say, I'll think about it and get back to you. Without anxiety, I can take long pauses before responding without discomfort. I can even choose not to respond to certain things if I deem them unworthy of a response. In personal relationships, I am no longer dragged into reactive discussions where both parties simply throw words at each other without true communication. I can choose not to engage in conflict in the heat of the moment and return to the conversation when we are both calmer. On social media, I no longer feel compelled to respond to every comment, defend myself against every criticism, or engage with obvious provocations. I can simply observe, decide it's not worth my energy, and move on without that mental itch of, I need to respond to this. And this completely changed my power in tangible and intangible ways. Tangible. I achieved better negotiations because I wasn't desperate to reach an agreement. I gained greater respect because I wasn't available for any drama. I saved countless hours of energy that I previously wasted on emotional reactions and their consequences. Intangible. I feel fundamentally more in control of my life, more rooted in my own center, less hostage to the actions and words of other people. There is profound dignity in not being moved by every wind that blows, in remaining like a mountain while storms pass around. Hanako knew this viscerally. Her power didn't come from being the most beautiful, or the most charming, or the most intelligent, although she was all those things. It came from having mastered herself so completely that no one else could master her. She was the absolute mistress of her reactions, which made her the mistress of her interactions, which made her the mistress of her life. And now, having learned her principles and practiced them daily, I finally understand. True control is not about controlling others or external circumstances. It's about controlling the only thing you can truly control, your own response. And when you master that, when you truly embody the fact that you choose when and how to respond, you become unstoppable, because nobody can make you dance anymore. You only move when you decide to, and that's the ultimate power that transforms everything. If you recognize that you have been a puppet of your own reactions, you can cut the strings. Sign up for the Geisha Path. The following videos will teach you specific, non-reactive techniques that Japanese masters have practiced for centuries. Leave a comment. Which automatic reaction weakens you the most? Anger? Defensive?ness? Over-explaining? True power lies not in reacting better. It lies in not reacting until you choose.